must hear our voices. The world must hear our songs. The world must hear the truth as we keep marching on. We never can rest silent beneath the rocket's roar. We must sing our songs of freedom for now and evermore.
Welcome to Voices of Change, a project of Community Shares. Community Shares raises money and awareness for Tennessee nonprofit organizations working for progressive social change. Our show seeks to inform you about our member groups and other issues related to progressive social change. My name is Shelley Wascom, and I'm your host. And I'm really happy to have today three folks with Planned Parenthood's FYI program. We've got Emily Coyle, Amanda Knops, and Jenna Rochelson, which I hope I pronounced all your names right. And I want to thank you so much for being here. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
So now there's probably not a person watching this show who hasn't heard of Planned Parenthood, but they probably have not, or they may not have heard of the FYI program. Can you tell us what is it?
Absolutely. So it's a high school education program for pretty much Tennessee teenagers who are close enough to commute every other Monday night, where we go and we meet and talk about problems in our community, and with an emphasis on sex education and activism, and we learn all the information we need to know to keep ourselves safe and informed, and we go back out into our schools and try to keep our peers safe and informed.
Right, I know that you're considered peer educators, so it's about you and the learning, but there's more to it than that, right? You do go right back out and talk to other people to educate them.
Mm-hmm. The entire focus is on making sure that our peers stay as safe, well-informed, and just generally healthy as possible.
And if they have problems they can't necessarily talk to their parents about, they can come to us and we can give them as much information as we can to make sure that they're safe.
And do you find, I think this is a question people have all the time. They say, in this day and age with the internet and everything, kids are really well informed. Do you find that to be true?
No.
No, not really.
So there's still a lot of misinformation out there.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. A lot of the questions I get are about just like birth control generally and what's safe and what isn't. And I get a lot of questions that, you hear and you think they're jokes, like, should I use, Diet Coke to clean X, Y, and Z out? It's like, no, please don't.
Mm-hmm.
Please do your research. Come talk to your educators.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. That's wonderful. Tell me a little bit about some of the projects and things that you've been doing.
So we also partner with another program that focuses on really Tennessee. We're with Voices for Trans Youth, Emily and I, and we essentially learn how to make sure our trans peers and other LGBTQ plus peers are safe within their own schools, and we try to have a voice for them as well, because a lot of the time they aren't heard and they usually aren't really listened to at all, and we want to try to change that.
And so you're part of the other group, but you're working on it as part of FYI as well?
Yes, so we also partner with them, so we help them. So, for example, we're having an gender expo on Saturday, and we're going to help them table, and we're going to help them make sure they have enough of an audience there, and we usually partner and help them as much as we can.
Oh, that's great. What are some of the other things? What are y'all, tell me some of the stuff that you've done that you really like, or is your favorite stuff?
Well, we tend to do condom handouts, about one a semester at least, where we go to UT campus and just hand out condoms to the folks there who are just passing by. And this really helps make sure everyone has condoms when they need them. They can give them to friends. We've had people come up to you and be just like, oh, hey, I heard there are people passing out condoms here. Can I get some? And we just hand them some.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. They make sure that they're safe.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And the beauty of that, I think, as well, is no judgment, no questions, no asking them why they want them or are they going to pay for them or anything. It's just saying, this is just a service that we are doing for you. And so what else? What else have y'all done or plan to do?
For the past year, and we're continuing this year, we've actually held drives in our schools, our churches, our communities, raising feminine products for homeless people. because you don't think about that as a commodity that's hard to come by, but it costs a lot of money in the grand scheme of things, and we're just trying to really make sure that everybody has access to what they need. So we raised, I want to say, over 1,000 individual products last year, and donated them to like area homeless shelters, and we're hoping to beat our record this year.
How many folks are there involved this year in the program?
Around 17 or 16.
Mm-hmm. And are they from all different schools or all over Knoxville?
Yes.
Yeah, we have some people from Blount County, from Knoxville. I'm from Union County myself, and so we just kind of get together about twice a month and just talk about the current issues.
Mm-hmm.
Is this y'all's first year to be in it, or you've been in it for more than 1 year?
This is my second year.
My second year, too.
This is my third year.
Third year. Well, what got you interested in doing this? Or first off, how did you even know about it?
Well, Jenna gave a presentation in Equality Club at STEM, and that's how I personally, I think Emily too, learned about this program.
My older sister was a peer educator a while ago. I'm super proud of her, and she really opened up my family to the idea of talking openly about some of the things that we talk about, and she looks like she had an amazing time. She still talks to people who were involved, and I was always so envious of all of the change she got to enact.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, hey, that might be a worthwhile way to spend my high school career.
And what about y'all?
Really, Jenna just gave a really good presentation in our Equality Club, and I thought it sounded really interesting because I really like activism, and I'm really passionate about a lot of the things that we do in FYI, and I just thought it would be a good way to get involved.
I agree with Amanda, but when I was younger, I had no clue what anything was, and it came from peers, but I found out a lot of it was not true, and so I wanted to make sure all of my peers had the correct information that I didn't have.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. No, that's really good, because that is, and it takes, you have to know the correct information, and you have to be willing to do it. Do y'all, before you were in FYI, would you have been a person who would go to people and just talk about these issues, or is that something new for you?
Not. I would try to help my peers as much as possible, but I really didn't know much.
If people had questions, I would never turn them away, but I certainly wasn't the one to walk up to groups of people and say, let's talk about sex ed.
Yeah, so that's something you feel like you get more comfortable with by being part of FYI?
It's really helped my self-confidence, in general, being in a club of wonderful people who listen to you and who you can talk to without fear of judgment.
And it sounds like it's a safe space to learn as well, right? There's no judgment about you don't know this or you're not,
Yeah, even for the senior peer advocates like us, we start with the same general sessions every year. So talking about anatomy and birth control and basically all of the basics of sex and health education, just to make sure we all start out kind of on a level playing field, because we can't help our peers if we aren't informed ourselves. So no questions are wrong, I guess, and we just really try to support each other.
Well, I imagine people might come into the group as well, not especially issues around issues about trans issues have come up a lot more in the more recent past, and I feel like that there's students who come. I run into people, of course, they're my age, but who don't know anything, and they're like, I'm so confused by pronouns and everything else. And but it would be nice to have a safe space for people to be able to ask questions and talk about it, but also a chance to people to learn how to be kind. Because that's really what we're really just talking about with people. I get tired of when people talk politically correct, because I always think, what if we just tried to be caring, loving people and didn't worry about the rest of it? And it sounds like that there's a space for that as well.
For sure.
And so is it just talking every week? Do you do, do you learn from videos? Do you have speakers?
Well, we have our leader, the leader of the group is, her name is Tori, and she usually I wouldn't say lectures to us, but usually is the one who teaches us. And we learn by diagrams, we learn sometimes by videos, and sometimes just by having discussions.
Often we have panels of speakers come
Yeah.
in when we talk about things like trans issues, like HIV, et cetera, et cetera. And Tori does a really amazing job of balancing just talking and not lecturing, but talking and discussion and activity.
Do you ever spend time with your? Is your family involved at all? Like, do they come to anything or?
Not usually, but there's always I feel like my family at least never feels like they can't ask Tori questions about what we're doing, and they can never, like, they can always ask me questions, but I don't think they've ever attended a session per se, but they can always talk to us about what we learned.
And that's a good thing, and that's a good thing to have a leader that they can go to and feel like they can ask about, well, what happens at this program. So all your family is really comfortable with you being a part of it.
Yeah,
That's
Pretty
wonderful.
much.
for the most
Yeah.
part.
That's good. So any other projects that you have coming up or anything you haven't touched on? We still have about 3 minutes, but I just want to make sure I don't forget anything.
One really important part of our program that I think we've skipped over a little bit is towards the end of the school year, kind of usually around like spring break time for Knox County Schools kids, we go and talk to our district like representatives and senators and et cetera, up in Nashville, which is really amazing, and it really helps own your argument skills, to say the least. But I think that's one of the most important parts of our program is just learning to advocate for you and your community and everybody else.
I would agree, and I feel like learning how to do it now is really important, and it really opens your eyes up to the whole legislative process. And I went a few years ago, and there were some teenagers who went with me. I think the bill was about whether gays could adopt, I think was the issue. But what I felt like one of the things they said was they figured out quickly that they knew more about the issue than the legislators, and that they, even as high school students, they could educate the legislators about this issue because they didn't know about it. And I think it's both confidence building and probably a little bit demoralizing to realize you know more than the people making the laws in the state. But it's still a really good experience, I think.
For sure.
I had an experience talking to one of my people up in Nashville where I attempted to educate a little bit about the whole trans bathroom issue, and I struggled to make my point. I was talked over pretty much the whole time, but it was a real eye-opening experience to that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's true. I feel the same way every time I go to Nashville. Every time that you are part of it, I feel it's like so good about doing it and then so bad about it at the same time. But that's just part of it. But learning it now, I think, so that you can continue to advocate for yourself and for your peers as you get older as well. And I mean, at this point you can't vote, but that's not very far away. And when you can, you're going to know how to go in there and how to talk to people, and then decide who you're going to vote for based on that. So I do know that you also, and I think this is later, there's like a photo thing, but maybe we'll come back and talk about that because we're really, really out of time as it turns out. But I really want to thank all of you for being here, for telling us about the program, and really for the work that you're doing for yourself and for others. So thank you so much.
Thanks for
Thank
having
you.
us.
And the world must hear our voices. The world must hear our songs. The world must hear the truth as we keep marching on. We never can rest silent beneath the rocket's roar. We must sing our songs of freedom for now and evermore.